is the Pine Hockey Eagles postgame show live from Ocean Casino, and the Eagles win today 38-31 against those always pesky Washington Commanders. I don't know how they're pesky, but they are against the Eagles. And A.J. Brown with another all-world day today. Sam Howell had a good day until the end. But the Eagles get another victory as they play one more week before the bye. Let's bring in our man Mark Farzetta now with the player you can bank on, presented by First Trust Bank. Farzy, is there any doubt that the player you can bank on is the man with the strong hand?
It's the easiest decision that we have to make on the postgame show, and that's the player to bank on, and without question, that's A.J. Brown. I mean, you got 6 consecutive games now, 125-plus yards, as we all know, and he's doing it in so many different ways as well. One-hand catches, physical catches, getting separation, catching in traffic. Nobody in the history of the NFL has had a run like he has had right now, Mike, and it's absolutely incredible. Credit goes to Howie Roseman for what he was able to do to bring him in last year. Credit goes to Jalen Hurts for consistently finding that target, getting DeVonta Smith involved, but watching the consistency from A.J. Brown has just been absolute a joy to watch this season. The man is a walking, running, catching cheat code right now for the Philadelphia Eagles offense.
I like it. Cheat code. Love that. All right, so Jalen today, 29 for 38. That's pretty good numbers. 319, 4 touchdowns. He got sacked for 2 times for just 4 yards. His rating, 135.7. Now, we haven't really gushed over Jalen in the first segment, more over A.J. Brown. But those are pretty good numbers for a guy who's hobbling a little bit, right?
Uh-huh. Very much. And you saw him start to limp upfield a little bit. You really saw him find that next level today. You saw a lot of struggles in the early goings, throwing behind Dallas Goedert like he did in the early going of the ball game. Then he was able to rally and just play strong and started to find some consistency with himself. Also, a wide-open DeVonta Smith. I mean, sometimes you're almost too wide open, and he just hit him right in stride back into the end zone for the touchdown. So everything right there was clicking on all cylinders in the second half for Jalen Hurts. It was good to see him be able to make adjustments in his game in that second half, unlike what we saw in the first half.
That's the interesting part about Washington and why I don't respect them. Because they'll allow something like that. The DeVonta Smith, they're just going to let go by and be wide open.
Zacchaeus. It was Zacchaeus underneath, too.
Exactly.
They stayed with Zacchaeus, Mike.
Like, it's not bad enough a false start on a 55-yard field goal to make it 61. Now, this guy here, we don't have to pay attention to that guy.
Man,
no.
I'm telling you, that fake bubble screen, it's not like they have a whole bunch of success with it, but it's like eye candy for these cornerbacks. They see that guy step up and move back. They're just like foaming at the mouth, or I'm either going to get an interception or I'm going to make a big play. Shoot, he just runs right by him.
D-Gun, we didn't talk much about Jalen. Now, we focused on the fact that he's got this knee situation now where he's hobbling, but he delivered 38 passes today. And, the thing about him is when he's on time with it, when he's in the pocket and he's delivering right away, it's a completion.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Well, as we've talked about all season long, he came a long way from 2021 to 2022. And even though his overall game is not as smooth this year as we thought it would be, he's that much smarter in terms of what to do with the ball, when to deliver the ball. And I know people will look at the numbers and say, well, look at his interception rate is so up there. Several of those interceptions were not his fault. Ricocheting off people, going through hands. You have to take that into consideration. Statistically, it still goes in the book as a sack. But I think he's even smarter this year than he was last year. But when you look at how jagged at times his overall production is, I have to give direct credit to the collection of coordinators he's playing, because they constantly talk about, we're seeing looks that we haven't seen on film. So the coordinators are doing everything possible they can to slow this thing down. They have a marginal amount of success, but in big moments, Jalen still finds a way, and that's what you want from your franchise quarterback. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, just when we need you the most.
They got a little more balance in the second half set. They did run the ball. If you don't count the Hurts carries, they did run the ball 16 times in the second half after only running it 4 in the first half. So at least they made an effort, right? That started with the third quarter. I don't know why it's so difficult to make that adjustment where they have to go into halftime and say we need to run the ball more.
Usually it's reversed.
What's going on with that?
They just don't want to run it, man. They honestly.
But they did in the third quarter. They realized that, we have to balance out here.
Well,
why don't they figure
but
that
that's
out
what I always
on
say.
the fly adjustments?
I always said, their go-to when everything else fails is to revert back to the run game. But my problem is, after you've shown your hand that you want to throw the ball, but in the passing game isn't working, and now you got to go back to the run, well, guess what teams are going to do? Teams are more prepared for it at that point in time, opposed to you being able to establish, a running game early and put that doubt in the defense's mind. And then now when you go back to your passing game, now you've got some kind of balance, and, you're coordinating your pass plays off of your run plays and your run plays off of your pass plays. It just doesn't make any kind of sense to me that their mindset is to just, we're going to come out and we're going to throw it all over the map because we're better than you are, because at some point in time, you're always going to be in a situation where the pass game is going to create a situation where you need the run game. And, I mean, you can talk about Washington's defense all you want, but against the rush, they rank 23rd. Against the pass, their defense ranks 27th. So they're pretty balanced, as bad as they are defensively, in both categories. So why would you just attack one area opposed to being able to attack both areas? And now you can put them in a situation where you can dictate to them, okay, we're going to make you drop the extra guy in the box. Now that you got the extra guy in the box, now we can go play action and we can throw it anywhere we want to. But they're just coming out. They don't care whether you're in single high or two high or playing quarters. They're just going to throw the ball, come hell or high water. It makes no sense to me.
So let's look defensively now. I want to switch to coins here. They didn't really get to him. They didn't really get to Sam Howell. Sam Howell now in 2 games against the Eagles, folks, has an average rating of 107. He was 100 the first time they played him. He was 114 today, 39 of 52 for 397. And he did get sacked once at the end and gave it up on an interception later in the game when he got a little jumpy. What was the deal with them not getting any pressure on him today?
Oh, man, listen, if you're not going to get up and challenge people, then you're not going to get pressure. I get sick and tired of people talking about, the D-line, we didn't get pressure early on. Well, listen, if you're going to play off, and you're going to play zone coverage where the quarterback can get a pre-snap read as to what you're doing, well, Sam Howell may be young, but he's also smart. He's smart enough to see, okay, well, I got everybody bumping over here, but I got this cornerback that's 7 to 8 yards off the ball, So what is he thinking? He's thinking if they're playing zone, they're rotating up over here, playing cloud coverage over here. That means the guy's got to run all the way out under this wide receiver, and this cornerback's playing off. Well, I can raise up and throw out or a slant route there all day long, and there's nothing they can do about it. Same thing in the zone concepts. If you're not getting up and back as far as your linebackers and your safeties are concerned, guess what? The quarterback is like, okay, well, they got 2 high safeties. They're probably in cover 2. If they're in cover 2, he knows where to go with the ball in cover 2 before he even asks for the ball. So it's easy to play quarterback if you're not disguising things and not moving guys around to make the quarterback actually think. And it doesn't take a Patrick Mahomes to do that. Sam Howell can do that. He proved that today. 397 yards. I tweeted at halftime. I'm like, is Sam Howell that good? Is he really that damn good?
That's the Eagles he is. Now, today, I give him credit. And the game plan was to get the ball out of his hands quickly.
That was the game plan the first time they played him.
Was.
Right?
They ran the ball a lot more the first time.
I understand that, but they did nothing to adjust to how they were going to be attacked this time. They came in with what seemed like the same old game plan. Well, we're just going to rely on our front 4, our front 5 to get pressure, and they didn't get there. Why? Because Sam was getting the ball out of his hands. Again, 2 to 2.5 seconds into the play.
Farzy, how you feeling about Sam Howell concept?
Well, if you were to tell me before the game, the Eagles were going to get a sack on Sam Howell until late in the fourth quarter. If you're going to tell me before the game that Sam Howell was going to have a 114 passer rating against you on a day like today, I would say the Eagles are going to lose this game, unfortunately, in a shootout fashion. Fortunately, Jalen Hurts, the team rose to the occasion, scored 3 touchdowns in a 7-minute span in the fourth quarter, got a huge interception by Reed Blankenship, who overall did not have a great game today, but did come up with a big interception. I would have told you they would have lost the game. But the fourth quarter obviously played out a lot different. And we say this about mediocre teams a lot. But you could say this about the Eagles in a lot of their games this year, and I don't think in any way, shape, or form they're a mediocre team. I think they're a very good football team. 7-1 kind of proves that, but they continue to find ways to put teams away, with the one exception. And I don't think that should be lost on anybody through this. Continue to find ways to win ball games. You're going to come up, make that the last-minute turnover like last week, do it again this week, and that puts teams away. And if you just hang around, even not playing your best football, against a team like the Washington Commanders, you could find a way to win that game. It's going to be a little bit more challenging next week against the Dallas Cowboys. Turned out not to be that big of a difference against the Dolphins, who are another upper echelon team. But they just continue to find a way to make sure they're in it at the end in a position to win.
Farzi, I agree with you, and it's not lost on me in the least little bit that the Eagles are 7-1. Okay, I think sometimes I'll look in the chat and I see what people are saying. I think people don't get it that, it's not our job to be fanboys up here. It's our job to analyze what we saw and talk about the game and the shortcomings or the outstanding play that you see. It's not lost on any of us, and I think we all, to a man across the board here, we want to see the Eagles do well. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I think at the end of the day, we'd be remiss in our duty, D-Gun, if we sat up here and talked about everything being, candy and roses. It's just not. And I keep saying it, in an imperfect game, we're expecting this team to play at some level of perfection. And it's just not going to happen because the game is too imperfect in that way. But, it's just I look at them offensively and I look at them defensively, and sometimes it's almost like they take turns. The special teams, believe it or not, the special teams, with the exception of the 37-yard missed field goal by Jake Elliott that could have meant the difference between them staying undefeated or not, I think the special teams is the one team that's played with some kind of consistency. When the offense hadn't played well, the defense over the last 2 weeks has been lights out. The defense no-showed today, and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts and the offense just showed out again today. So it's almost like they're ham and egging, week after week after week. And again, it's not lost on any of us sitting up here, the fact that this team has the best record in the National Football League, okay? But it's also our job to analyze, what we're seeing as we watch this team, and the fact that, I'm not ball-headed because, I just want to keep it ball. This team sometimes I'm more gray-headed than I am ball-headed, and that's because of the Eagles. That's why I keep it gray.
Well, I will say I stopped when it comes to shows that we do. I stopped looking at social media a long time ago and chats because people are just out spitting venom just for the heck of it.
Right.
So I don't pay attention to them. They don't listen to what is being said. They twist what you say to meet their own narratives. Number one. Number two. For as good, why are you grinning?
Because I just find what you said funny. Well, because that's what they say about us sometimes too. That we're twisting things and making our own narrative.
Okay,
but I understand what you're saying.
You know what? To each his own, right? To each his own. But I will say this: for this team to be sitting here at 7-1, and you look at the collection of coordinators they have played up to this point. You've looked at teams that have had the entire offseason to analyze, dissect, and break down this Eagles' potent offense from last year to this year. And for this team to still be putting up the kind of numbers they put up, as inconsistent as they've been, for individuals like A.J. Brown to be putting up the type of numbers he's putting up consistently week in and week out, says a lot about the cohesiveness, the continuity, and the individual athleticism of what Howie Roseman has put together with his organization. Because we sit here talking about, you look at some of the more creative offenses in the National Football League, what's the first thing they do? Motion, constant motion. Kansas City, San Francisco. This team doesn't use a lot of motion. They just line up and say, stop us if you can. 9 times out of 10, you can't stop this thing.
By the way, you two have had it easy on social media over here.
What do you mean easy?
Compared to me. I could write a 900-word or page textbook on hatred. To be honest, and Farsi knows what I'm talking about. I haven't been in Sports Talk Radio for a while.
You thrive
You
on
have
that
survived.
stuff.
You and Seth are just getting a little taste of it.
Oh, I don't care.
It don't bother me at all. I could care less what they say, what they think. I could care less.
Well, I think one of the big miscommunications here, to go to the point of arguing after about a 7-1 team, is we're not talking about a team that's 7-1 necessarily. We're talking about a team and how they're going to stack up against their standard, to put it to Jalen Hurts. And right now their standard is a Super Bowl, to at least contend and get to a Super Bowl. Sure. That's what we're measuring it against. It's not whether or not they're going to beat the Commanders in Week 8 of the season. It's how they play now, and will that stack up against the upper echelon teams, and how are they going to compete for a Super Bowl? Because that's the bar that they've set for themselves. And I think that's the most fair way to look at it.
Right now, record-wise, they're still very much in line to get back to that Super Bowl.
Exactly, yeah.
Compared to the rest of the competition in the NFC.
I'm looking at social media right now, and Dave Zangaro, who covers the Eagles, says he quotes Jalen Hurts, who was asked about his knee.
Again. Again.
Jalen said, and I quote, "I'm here." That was it. That was it. That's all
he's not going to tell you anything, man. Just like when he was asked last week, what did he say? We'll see.
We'll see.
He's not going to tell you anything.
No.
He just didn't put the rest of the quote to it.
What's the rest of the quote?
Started from the bottom. Now he's here.
Oh, there you go.
He's here. He ain't going nowhere.
We saw a couple of times him limping off the field today. It's understandable.
Well, you can tell he's hobbling. I mean, he didn't even have a mindset to run today. I mean, you can tell it like when he wants to squirm out of there and get.
I promise you this: he will have a mindset to run next week. I promise you that.
Yeah,
he will be running next week because I'm telling you, Dan Quinn is coming after. I'm telling you. Dallas,
their game plan next week, D-Gun, has to be
get to Jalen.
It has to be I'm talking about the Eagles. The Eagles game plan next week has to be to run the football early.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then when you're going to throw it, it needs to be the short game. They're going to have to be patient enough, to take what they're given. Because if they sit in that pocket next week against that pass rush, and against the blitz package that Dan Quinn will bring to the table, realizing that you've effectively eliminated Jalen Hurts' running ability just because of the injury, it'll be a long day for the Eagles in the link next week.
Absolutely.
JAKIB Sports, who tweets live with us as we're doing our post-game show here, has just tweeted out the Seth comment.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I'm over the Kenneth Gainwell experiment. I don't understand what the Eagles' fascination is.
I already tweeted. I tweeted that out at halftime.
Oh,
you kidding me?
Your boss has just laid you out again with that one.
Listen, if I tweet it, it's fair game. Just as long as you tweet it in the context that I meant it. I don't have a problem with it.
I get it. All right.
I'm over the experiment. I'm over the experiment.
Caught 6 passes today.
I don't care. I don't care. You can't fumble that ball down there, okay? And if you're going to be the number 2 guy that came into this year that was expected to be the number 1 guy until they went and got DeVonta DeAndre Swift, can you imagine what conundrum this team would have been in if they hadn't have made that change?
How many times do you think Swift carried the ball today?
Probably 16 times.
Exactly.
That's his number.
You cheated, didn't you?
No.
No. You got it right in front of you.
How many times?
What?
Listen, I don't have it right there in front of me. Look at what I got. I can tell you. Listen, I know because I know what the Eagles' mindset is.
That's more than I thought he carried it, frankly.
The only reason he got 25 carries in that game, in that Tampa game, was because Kenneth Gainwell was hurt, and they had no other option.
I'm okay.
They want their star running back to touch the ball no more than 16 to 18 times.
I'm with that, but that also brings in the fact they need somebody else to carry the football. Now, if Gainwell can't do it, they don't seem to be that confident about Boston Scott. They've got a dearth there.
It can't be a confidence thing, man. That dude's doing nothing. He protects the ball.
Boston Scott doesn't turn the ball over.
Why don't they use it?
I don't know.
We have no idea. First of all, when it was announced that Boston Scott re-signed with the Eagles, I was shocked back in the spring on a 1-year deal for the low amount of money he signed for, because he's still very much in his prime, not an overused body. And if I'm his agent, I'm telling my client, you look at the limited numbers that you put up in your tenure in Philadelphia. They've been good, productive numbers, not just as a running back, but as a pass catcher and a returner. We could parlay that into something a little bit more lucrative, maybe not more than $5 or $7 million. But the bottom line is you would have more opportunities to showcase your skills which could help you in the long run. When he signed for a little over $2-3 million to come back here, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? You're always going to be buried on the depth chart here. Why would you come back here? And he talked about how comfortable he is with the organization. Well, you only get one shot at this in a career. You're in a profession where the average lifespan is 3.5 years. You get one good shot to make some good money at this level, okay? And you decided to come back here to be the third or fourth back for the Philadelphia Eagles. Loyalty is one thing. Financial security is another thing.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is, D-Gun? You know, when you pigeonhole somebody into thinking that the best that they can do is right here, that their best option is right here, then you know what begins to happen? Yeah, as a player, you know, I say it all the time. The greatest asset that any player in the National Football League can have is confidence.
Yep.
Okay, it's the number one thing, because when you get to this level where there's only 1,696 of you in the entire world, okay, everybody's got talent and everybody's got skill and everybody's got ability. But I think what separates the great players from the average players and the average players from the just all right players is your self-belief. How much do you believe in yourself? How much do you think that you can be the guy? You understand what I'm saying?
Self-worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so when you get a guy like Boston Scott, who's been here his entire career, you know, and the team, the organization is pretty much sending a message to him as, you know, you're third best. You know, you're a kick returner. Well, when it's time for him to shop himself on the market, what does he believe about himself?
They're
How
going to
does he
have to
see
find
himself?
somebody that is reliable behind DeAndre Swift, and I agree. I believe they should blow an air horn when he gets to 15, and that's the end. But they got to figure out something else here. All right,
I don't believe that.
I do.
I think that he needs more opportunities, because I think he's in the best shape.
I don't know, man.
He's in the best shape of his career.
Your running back could be in the best shape. You're going to get bruised up.
It doesn't matter. You got to understand he's playing for a contract next year. Okay?
Yeah, but you can't grind him up.
You don't have to grind him up. You didn't grind up Miles Sanders last year.
Well,
you gave him opportunity.
I'm okay 15, 16. You're not?
No.
Okay.
No. And I also believe he needs 20 to 25 touches a game, and Boston Scott needs to get that other 10 that Kenneth Gainwell isn't giving you the production for.
All right, let's take a quick break. On the other side, Kayla Santiago joins us with the Diamond Debate as the Pine Hockey Eagles postgame show continues live from Ocean. Back after this.
Carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.